Pat McAfee raves about the Eagles as being the number 1 seed and having a top 5 pick. Could they use that on Will Anderson? Nick Wright ranks Philadelphia number 1, but doesn't seem very interested in them actually being good. And finally, an injury update. Andre Dillard activated, but the odds of him actually playing on Sunday, very, very slim. I'm Thomas Mott. This is The Thomas Mott Show. What's up, guys? Thomas Mott here. Welcome into the Thomas Mott Show on a Thursday, the show where we try to give you guys a great drive to work or great drive home from work, listening to either me talk about the Philadelphia Eagles or the National Football League as well. We have some good NFL national stories of the day, including Odell Beckham Jr. to the Packers as a potential coming up at the end of today's video. But I want to jump in to a clip reaction that I heard from Pat McAfee yesterday on the Pat McAfee Show, and also Nick Wright ranking all the NFL teams in his tier system. We're going to do both of those here at the very beginning, but I want to start with Pat McAfee. Now, I'm a Pat McAfee Show fan. I think his show was really, really good. He obviously has tons of followers, but it's funny to see, again, a national media personality, and that's what Pat McAfee is. I talk about that all the time here on a show, reacting to the Philadelphia Eagles, because there's a big difference between a national story or a national media guy who doesn't watch the Eagles very closely. I mean, I'm sure they do, but not like, a blogger does, an Eagles beat writer does, someone who likes to talk about the Philadelphia Eagles either on a show or, at a radio station or whatever it is. It's always fun to react to what they say. There's a couple of things here that Pat McAfee does mention that are true and accurate, and some other things that maybe kind of scratch my head, but he mentions the first-round draft pick with the Saints and where that could go. Will Anderson could come into play for Philadelphia, the star pass rusher out of Alabama in 2023. Imagine this team, which many people consider to be a double-digit win, number 1 seed in the NFC, also getting Will Anderson next year. We'll talk about how that could happen here on the Thomas Mott Show. First, let's go ahead and go to the video. This is from the Pat McAfee Show. We'll react to it here, and it's fun to see him, again, acknowledge that Philadelphia is really good. Let's take a listen.
The Eagles are the number 1 seed in the NFC, and they currently have a top 5 pick from the New Orleans Saints. This whole situation with the Eagles, from going to...
Okay, so first off, he is right. Like, the New Orleans Saints pick, as we'll see here in just one second, is number 4 right now. And the fact that the Saints are having a bunch of injury issues with Alvin Kamara and Jameis Winston is in and out of the lineup, if they keep losing, they're 1-3. I mean, you just got to get to a couple more losses here. Not a couple, but if they keep losing, this stays a top 5 draft pick. And again, the Super Bowl window we've talked about here on the Thomas Mott Show for Philadelphia just gets extended, and they stay in that money zone where they can keep winning a lot of games the next couple of years. Let's keep going.
Going to, Super Bowl, them becoming a laughing stock.
Did the Eagles become a laughingstock after the Super Bowl? I don't remember them becoming a laughingstock. I remember them going back to the playoffs the year after, losing in the divisional round. Almost could have beaten the Saints. Alshon Jeffrey catches that pass. They beat the Saints. 2019, you have Carson Wentz, injury prone. And then 2020, maybe you say 2020 was a laughingstock, but was it really a laughingstock? It feels like they were, trying to transition a little bit away from Doug Peterson. You had the Carson Wentz drama. They weren't a laughingstock last year. I don't think they were a laughingstock last year. I think Philadelphia very much was competitive, getting to 9 wins and going to the postseason. Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts' first time starting together. Not sure what he's saying about that, but it's interesting to see how he goes from number 1 seed, top 5 pick, but they were a laughingstock.
Almost from outside. We were wondering which building's on fire more. The Houston Texans, which we've all seen and heard about, it was on fire.
It's bad.
Or the Philadelphia Eagles, who go to a Super Bowl, fans celebrate for the first time in 50 years, eat poop off streets.
Okay, let's stop there. This is ridiculous. Did anyone actually compare Philadelphia to being a dumpster fire organization since the Super Bowl back in 2017? No one has compared Philadelphia to being that. Even people who don't like the Eagles still understood that they were a threat. They went to the playoffs and almost beat Russell Wilson without their starting quarterback a couple of years ago after the Super Bowl. They have been to the playoffs almost every single year since the Super Bowl and have been a very, very viable franchise. Sure, they've made draft errors, and maybe that's what we're talking about here, not taking Metcalf, not taking Justin Jefferson, but overall, the idea that McAfee is essentially saying that the Eagles were a Super Bowl team, became a dumpster fire, and have risen from the ashes like a phoenix is a little bit overblown. But the main focus here is his thought that not only are they a first overall seed, but they are also getting a top 5 draft pick. And Tankathon.com has a good look at this here in terms of where people are based on their record. I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. This can change, and it will as the records continue to move. But you see there, the New Orleans Saints draft pick, essentially the Chris Olave draft pick is what New Orleans used that pick for. Well, the Saints are 1-3. They have a 2.50 win percentage. They're 4th in the draft right now, and that pick is guaranteed to Philadelphia at number 4, which gets me into kind of my next thought here on the Thomas Mott Show. What could you use that pick for? And I know that it's early in terms of draft season, and we'll get to some more, up-to-date stuff with Philadelphia regarding Andre Dillard being activated in just one second, but this could become a serious superstar of a player. Top 5 draft picks. If this is where it stays, let's look at the Tankathon big board here, right? Let's go to the Tankathon big board and see who's in, let's say, the top 10 who could be available for Philadelphia next year. Number 1, Will Anderson. More on him in a second. CJ Stroud, won't need him. Jalen Carter, the D-line out of Georgia, he's fantastic. Bryce Young, won't need him. You won't need Jackson Smith in Jiba. You're not going to need him as a wide receiver, but an option. Miles Murphy out of Clemson is an absolute beast. Ringo, the cornerback, is really, really good. If you needed a tackle, there's Paris Johnson out of Ohio State. Look at these studs. These are not just random college football players that you have never heard of when you get to the 3rd or 4th round of the draft. These are top 10 picks, and Philadelphia right now is sitting at a potential place where they could go ahead and get a really, really, really good player. And I think it's important to note that, yes, Pat McAfee seemingly is getting back on the Eagles train, but it's fun to see how he goes from first overall or number 1 seed, top 5 pick, but they were a dumpster fire. It's a fun video to react to here on the Thomas Mott Show. Okay, some more pressing news in terms of Philadelphia. We'll get to our national story of the day here in just one second. Your estimated injury report ahead of the Cardinals game via Bleeding Green Nation has officially come out, and to no surprise, there were a lot of DNPs for Philadelphia in Wednesday's practice. No Jake Elliott, no Kyron Johnson, no Patrick Johnson, no Avonte Maddox, and no Jordan Mailata. More on him in a second. And then you see Isaac Seumalo was limited with that ankle. Odds are he's going to go ahead and play, and Darius Slay with the forearm. He was a full participant in that one as well. What people are talking about on Eagles Twitter right now, at least yesterday, was the activation of Andre Dillard into that 21-day practice window, basically saying he's coming back in the next couple of weeks here. But Nick Sirianni did have a quote that kind of puts a little bit of water on the fire that Dillard could start this week in place of Jordan Mailata, as he said, and we'll just throw up the whole entire quote here from Bleeding Green Nation. Quote, "The early word is that Mailata will not be able to play on Sunday. No surprise. If he can't suit up, Andre Dillard will start in his place if he's ready to be activated from injured reserve. It's currently unclear if that's the case, though. Sirianni seemed more bearish than bullish about Dillard's chances of returning, noting that conditioning is an, quote, extra hurdle that the backup left tackle, or for the backup left tackle to clear. If Mailata and Dillard both aren't playing, it'll be Jack Driscoll who gets to start on the blind side." So you saw a lot of tweets on Twitter yesterday saying, oh my goodness, well, Andre Dillard saved the day. Here he comes after his broken arm. No, not necessarily. He's got to get in football shape, and football shape is a very, it's a key term you see a lot of people in the media use, but essentially it's conditioning. I mean, these guys have got to be able to go for 4 quarters, and every single snap at left tackle, you're dealing with the opponent's best pass rusher. Could be, J.J. Watt, for instance, on Sunday against the Arizona Cardinals. And so I'm very bearish, as this article states, in saying that Dillard is going to play on Sunday. It's still early. I think we'll find out more this afternoon. Obviously, we film these shows on an early morning for you guys' drive to work, but also potentially on Friday whether he's going to go. My guess is Driscoll will go at left tackle, and Seumalo will be good to go at right guard. If not, Sua Opeta will go ahead and fill in on that one. Okay, I want to move over here to Nick Wright. Now, quick little background on Nick Wright. I used to be an intern on First Things First. Way back in the day, I lived in New York City my final year of college, and this is where I worked. I worked in the Fox Sports building, Fox News building, whatever it is, on Fifth Avenue, and I worked with Nick Wright and Chris Carter. Chris Carter was the host back then. He no longer is, and so I know Nick Wright personally, although we haven't talked in a while, and so I don't know if I can say I know him personally, but I worked for 6 months with Nick Wright, and I love the guy. Great, genuine, really good sports mind, very nice to me as an intern. His tier ranking system, he's always done, even when I was there many, many years ago. He would do this more so with the NBA stuff because he's more of an NBA-focused guy, big LeBron guy, which is genuine, by the way. But he has his Knicks tiers, I should say, entering each and every week. And I was watching this live on First Things First the other day, and you see his tier list on the screen right now. AFC hanging by a thread, NFC hanging by a thread, not the standings, which is an interesting one, talking about how Dallas, where their ranking is not necessarily true of where they're at. Missing a piece, talk about, the Browns needing a quarterback, the Rams needing a offensive lineman, the Chargers needing to get healthy, the Packers needing a wide receiver. Then he goes into dangerous in December. I agree with all three of those teams, one of which Philadelphia has beaten. Scary everywhere, that's true, except for, I would say, in terms of injuries for the Bucs offensive line. And then the favorites, number 1 seed Philadelphia. Now listen to what he says, if we can play this. What he says about Philadelphia is interesting because he puts them as the favorite, and then kind of like Pat McAfee, gets a little jab in there. And again, this is just what they do. If they don't watch the Eagles very, carefully like we do, like you do who watch this and listen to this show, you're going to get comments like this. Take a listen.
Favorites for the number 1 seed, Philadelphia. I think Philadelphia is going to go 14-3. I don't think, however, they're quite as dominant as that record or the current record will suggest.
See, I think they're going to go 14-3, which is really hard to do in the NFL. That's a crazy, crazy, crazy good overall record, but they're not as dominant as their record states. Did you hear that? They're not as dominant as their record states. And I don't know why this is the continued talking point from some people in the media right now regarding Philadelphia. You can only play who's in front of you. And did we not have 2 weeks, at least 2 weeks in the past 4 where they said, oh, the Vikings are a really serious test. The Minnesota Vikings offense and Justin Jefferson, ooh, look out for them. Best team in the NFC North. That's a real test for Philadelphia. Crushed them, by the way. And then last week, hey, Jacksonville, sneaky good, number 1 rush defense. Trevor Lawrence is playing great in the rain. That's what happened. It didn't happen at all. I mean, literally, it did not happen at all. And so, as you continue to watch Philadelphia this year, keep looking for takes like this. It's not a bad one because, sure, you're only 4 weeks in, and technically Philadelphia could, struggle some coming up, or maybe they dominate their easy schedule, and then you get to a point in the postseason where they play, the 49ers and look bad. Sure, it could. But so far, do your eyes see that? Do your eyes see an Eagles team that's not as dominant as their record states? No, I definitely do not. And I think that it's fun to kind of look at what Nick Wright has to say, look at what Pat McAfee has to say, and kind of go, maybe they need to either watch a little bit more of the Eagles, or they just don't feel the same way that a lot of Eagle fans do regarding where Philadelphia is at right now. I'll state my case. I'm very clear on this overall. Philadelphia will be a top 3 seed in the NFC. Things can change, but right now they are the best team in the NFC, and I think they have, the punchers, or let's just say the leading chance to win their division, obviously, and be the number 1 seed. But I think overall, as you look through the rest of Nick Wright's tiers here, they're better, on paper at least, than every single team that you see here, minus maybe the Buffalo Bills. At least the NFC teams, and that's interesting because there's only a couple of NFC teams on this list. As we mentioned, the Bucs, they have injury problems, they're old at wide receiver, and right now, the defense from this past game did not look as stout as you thought that they were. That was the big kind of Todd Bowles pitch, is that, sure, the offense can be injured, the O-line can be injured, but we will play good defense. They gave up 41 to the Chiefs on Sunday. Then you go down here to the next tier, again, 3 tiers down from Philadelphia, Green Bay and LA. Green Bay needs help at wide receiver. Their defense is good, not great, I would say. It's not as good as Philadelphia's. And the Rams have serious offensive line issues, and apparently, without Odell Beckham Jr., they don't have a number 2 target alongside Cooper Kupp, and they can't run the football. They don't like Cam Akers, and it's just not the same Super Bowl team that we saw this past year. I miss the 49ers, I'll say that. The Niners defense is great. It might be better than Philadelphia's right now, at least kind of, 1A, 1B. But Jimmy Garoppolo is a hindrance, despite the fact that I think he can win you a lot of games. And I think that right now they're banged up rushing the football and don't have that Kyle Shanahan zone running scheme identity that they really flaunted and ran all over the place in teams over the past couple of years. You get to Dallas, obviously they still have massive concerns with the quarterback spot. I think Cooper Rush has been playing well. It's been against some, sub-average teams overall. The Bengals weren't that good until the second half of the Cowboy game. Either way, Dallas is a threat, but not a scary threat. The Vikings you already beat. The Giants, really don't have offensive weapons not named Saquon Barkley, and Daniel Jones is not going to play on Sunday when they go to London to take on the Green Bay Packers. And then you keep going down this list, and you look at the Falcons. They're fine, but they're not going to scare you. Philadelphia's a much better football team. Arizona, I'm going to talk about in my upcoming video later, or my upcoming show later on this week, that Philadelphia should crush Arizona. Respectfully, Arizona's not that good. Philadelphia should win that game. And then, of course, you get to something like Seattle, who is not a threat, and that's the only other NFC team on Nick Wright's tier list. So it's fun to see what national media people say, and I'm curious if you guys have experienced the same thing. And you can, tweet me at RealThomasMott or mention it down below in the comment section of the show. Do you notice whenever you watch the national media, ESPN, Fox Sports, whoever it is, some big writer for The Athletic, that when they talk about Philadelphia, there just seems to be that little hint of disbelief that they're actually that good? We're all believers here, at least I am. It's funny to see people who are this close, but not quite through 4 weeks of the NFL season. Okay, I want to quickly go over to our national story of the day. We have two of them because we're going to look at the Thursday night football game coming up later on tonight. Odell Beckham Jr., who is still unsigned, which is weird to me. I know the knee issue. Is he healthy? Can he play right away? I don't know if it's a money thing, an ego thing. I don't know, but he had some tweets that might kind of indicate he likes the idea of pairing up with Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. OBJ, at OBJ on Twitter. AR is to fire emoji. Honestly, bro, makes it look effortless. Chris Williamson said, a lot of damage could be done with you and Rodgers. OBJ says, who you telling? That's a different breed right there. And so there's been plenty of speculation that OBJ and Aaron Rodgers are going to reunite. Don't know if it's going to happen, but the Packers, if they want to be legit this year, they need OBJ. They need a legit weapon on the outside who scares you to the point that you have to double team him. Because you're not double teaming Lazard right now. You're not double teaming Christian Watson. You're not double teaming any of these receivers that once would have been double teamed or at least had one-on-one opportunities because Devontae Adams was being double teamed. So keep an eye on this, especially if you're an Eagle fan. This could make the Packers a lot more legit. Will it actually happen, though? Is he healthy? These are questions we just do not know the answer to. Okay, let's go to the game tonight. I like to look at, the games that are coming up on Sunday when we get closer to Sunday, but the one game tonight is Colts and Broncos. The Colts have been maybe the most disappointing team in the entire National Football League. They really should be 1-3. You can make an argument they should have lost to the Chiefs and been 0-4 because the Texans' tie was ridiculous. They were losing that football game. Frank Reich, I don't think he's on the hot seat with the Colts. He's going to get close, though, if they keep losing football games. Their issue is quarterback. It has been Carson Wentz this past year, and then you go into, Matt Ryan right now, who I've met. He's a really nice guy. The age is the factor right now with Matt Ryan. This is not the 5,000-yard Matt Ryan you were used to in Atlanta, 5 years ago with Julio Jones and then earlier Roddy White, Calvin Ridley. They need a new quarterback. Don't be surprised if the Colts really start losing a lot this year. They tank for C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young because this is a good roster. This is a good defense. They've not given up more than 24 points. 20 to the Chiefs, right? The Bucs gave up 41 to the Chiefs just the other day. They need a spark at quarterback. They need a spark on the outside. They need a legit offense. And Jonathan Taylor is out this game, so that might be a factor, but they need some legit, I would just say, overall weapons, not named just quarterback, but also potentially in at wide receiver as well, because Michael Pittman being your best receiver is not going to cut it. Denver is weird to me. I really thought Denver was going to be good this year. I have been so high on Russell Wilson his entire career. I love Russell Wilson. Compare Jalen Hurts to Russell Wilson. They need to win this game. They have not done anything offensively that makes me go, wow, Russell Wilson's making a big difference, but they should. I know that Williams, their running back, is out, and that's, he's done for the year with the ACL injury, but even without him at running back, you have Jerry Jeudy, you have Cortland Sutton, you have KJ Hamler, you have, tight ends, you have offensive linemen, you have all this stuff in Denver. They should be way better than they are, and I don't know if it's Nathaniel Hackett, I don't know if it's Russell Wilson, but someone's going to get the blame if they keep losing. But if they can just hold on and win this game and then, hang on against the Chargers, this schedule gets a lot easier. They got the Jets, they got the Jaguars, they got the Titans and the Panthers and the Cardinals. They have a chance to kind of hold on, stay afloat, and potentially be a wild card team in the AFC. Okay, a lot to break down on today's show. I think it's fun to react to some stuff here in terms of what national people are saying. I think that you need to understand where they come from. And I'm not ripping Pat McAfee. I'm not trying to rip Nick Wright. I respect these guys. These guys are way higher points of their career than I am. But it is fun to see when you get to a national perspective, you just can't watch all 32 teams closely. And even though Philadelphia is one of the best teams in the NFC, if not the best, there still is that hint of they're really good. But, there's that little but that kind of huddles in there, and it's fun to point that out for you guys to see right now through 4 weeks of the NFL season. Okay, plenty more shows, obviously, the rest of the week. We do shows almost every single day on the Thomas Mott Show to keep you guys, enjoying the content, driving home from work, sitting at the cubicle, wherever you're at. Always thumbs up. That really helps out the show. I appreciate that. And we will talk to you guys tomorrow, hopefully getting ready for what I think is going to be a really fun and winnable game against the Arizona Cardinals. I'm Thomas Mott. This has been the Thomas Mott Show.